In the family of energy storage products, you can kind of have two big approaches. The first, which is a little more traditional, is called the DC block approach. You can see a picture here. This is by a supplier FlexGen. The way you can tell is you have a energy storage container on the right, and then you have a PCS or a bidirectional inverter on the left. And if you look on the top, you can see those are medium voltage transformers that are usually located right next to that PCS. If you look at the single line diagram, you can see that you have all these DC blocks. So each of those squares would represent a rack, which is inside the enclosure or the container. And then you can see you have your PCS or inverter, the transformer, and it feeds on up to the grid. Those voltages they vary from project to project, depending on region, but more or less that's the range you'll see. You'll see it's important you usually have aux power fed via a separate circuit, although you have some, as Jordan mentioned, CPS's product that has the aux built right into their skid. So Tesla, with their Megapack product, was the first to go this route, but a few others have followed. Notably, we have SunGrow, who has come up with a product that uses this architecture, and also more recently, Wärtsilä came out with a product that uses this. And the difference is this: if we look at those blue boxes on the bottom of the single line, those represent the enclosure. And inside the enclosure, you have many small inverters or PCSs, coupled with sometimes it's a few racks or sometimes it's a few modules. It just depends, but you'll have some amount of DC energy in a battery coupled with an inverter, and that is repeated several times in each enclosure. You'll see that voltage-wise, you don't have the DC voltage coming out of the container anymore. You only get the AC out, right? And so all that inverting convert PCS function is happening on the inside of the container. Some pros and cons of each of these systems. The DC block offers you a little more flexibility. So for example, if you wanted to have a PCS that was of a certain size or a certain brand, you could pick that and then pair it with whichever DC block you want. Whereas in contrast, if you want to use a SunGrow AC block product, you can't pick a different inverter. You're kind of married to that PCS. We've seen some cases like in Taiwan, there's a market where it's really, really valuable to have a 3-hour storage system, which is kind of rare in the industry. Usually we see 2 or 4. So if you go to, say, Megapack, Tesla, they only offer a 2-hour and a 4-hour. You cannot get a 3-hour just because that's the way it comes. So DC block gives you a little more flexibility, but on the downside, it gives you a little more complication. You have to deal with multiple parties. Maybe they don't talk well to one another. There's controls challenges, a lot of other things that are a little more complex going from the DC block to the AC block.